As much as everyone rags on Nissan for being, well, Nissan in the 2010s, at least they tried making their first subcompact crossover interesting. People certainly talked about them, for better and for worse. Much worse. This is the 2014 Nissan Juke S Midnight Edition. It's the Nissan Juke. It's a small crossover that looks like a frog. It's not as practical as its contemporaries. Shun! 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 Yes, let's get that out of our systems while we're on it. We are certainly living in a world of crossovers and SUVs, and Nissan certainly has what enthusiasts like to call a boring lineup. I've covered it a bunch already with my Versa Note, R51 Pathfinder, and 350Z reviews, but the Juke stood out in a crowd of Buick Encores, Ford EcoSports, and Honda HRVs. Yeah, it was one of the first in the segment, but at least they tried to stand out in the crowd. Does it look like a bit like a smiling frog? Sure, but it's not really a bad subcompact crossover. As mentioned just seconds before, the Juke was Nissan's first foray into the then burgeoning subcompact crossover market, and a somewhat surprisingly forward-thinking move by the company, especially for the 2010s. The Juke ended up being one of the first in its segment. Aimed directly at young adults, the Juke would help set the precedent for the class. Sitting on a stretched platform of Nissan's B platform, known as the BO platform, the F15 Juke shares much of its underpinnings with the Versa Note, a car I filmed 2 years ago. Being a crossover, it's available with Nissan's Pure Drive all-wheel drive, which actually completely disengages the rear differential when not in use, to help save on MPGs and overall wear and tear on the system. The Juke slotted underneath Nissan's often forgotten Rogue line, the midsize Murano, and the Pathfinder crossovers, and the full-size Armada SUV. While much of Nissan's crossovers and SUVs focus solely on being people movers, the Juke attempted to give Nissan buyers a little flair with their smallest offering. Higher-end models got Nissan's then-new Icon infotainment system, but the base level S model got traditional head unit. The owner has upgraded it with a Sundown audio box subwoofer and a Rockford Fosgate amp, but higher end models got the full Rockford Fosgate sound system. This also happens to be a Midnight Edition, which is one of the several appearance packages and options on the Juke. Small crossovers like this are aimed at younger buyers, and audio makers have made a point to bring back a wide array of appearance options, so said younger buyers can better express themselves through their car. The Midnight Edition package blacks out the wheels and trim, and includes this wing on the back that I think really helps add to the whole Juke package. And yeah, let's talk about the styling. The love it or hate it styling that dictated the success of the Juke. The aggressive wheel arches suggest a performance that wasn't actually there. The giant bug-eye fog lamps that intersect the sharp angles and pointy headlights. The aggressive rear hatch design that hampers practicality in the cargo area a lot. The design also severely hampers rear seat room. I barely fit back there at 6'3", and the very small doors severely hampered the ease of access there. I really wouldn't recommend trying to fit someone back there, especially a full-size adult. The Juke is not a family vehicle, at all. However, it's perfect for hauling around a doggo, like Bonnie here, who's a very good girl. Now, back to the Juke. It's a very striking design that promises a lot, like mentioned before, but fails to produce any said promise. Under the hood in the United States is the only available engine, the 1.6-liter MR16 DDT 4-cylinder, a direct-injected turboed engine that produces 188 horsepower and 177 foot-pounds of torque. There was also a Nismo model in 2013 that bumped up the power from the MR to 197 horsepower and 184 foot-pounds of torque, and only available in America was the Nismo RS model, which again tuned the MR to 215 horsepower and 210 foot-pounds of torque. Now there's also the Juke R that I just absolutely have to mention, that put the running gear from the GTR supercar into a Juke, but Nissan only produced 23 of those models, so they weren't exactly available to the buy-in public. Standard on the Juke is the Xtronic CVT, which I also found in the Versa Note. There was also a 6-speed manual option, but you couldn't get those with all-wheel drive. Out on the road, it's fine. Just fine. Acceptable. And car. The steering's light in the field's pretty non-existent, a byproduct of Nissan's electric power steering. Handling is actually quite nimble for the crossover, despite it essentially being a Juke with a fancy hat and tall shoes. The Chober 4, despite its low numbers, actually propelled the Juke at a decent rate. I never actually felt it was struggling to get into traffic. And the Xtronic CVT that I absolutely hated in the Versa Note, I wasn't nearly offended this time around. Maybe because I'm probably used to it at this point. It might have been tuned slightly different, or it might have just been a lack of an aftermarket exhaust that displays the engine's displeasure to the world at all times like that Versa. Maybe just a combination of the two. Either way, it felt like a perfectly acceptable commuter. And the pure drive all-wheel drive worked halfway decent as well, as we were able to test it out a little bit in this icy parking lot. The Nissan Juke is just simply an car. The owner bought it because he needed a commuter that was a lot better on gas than his first generation Nissan Titan, and the Juke was a quirky option that caught his eye. Another thing he was needing was all-wheel drive, which is something you really have to take into consideration living in a state like Maine. Just having constant icy conditions in parking lots, the addition of all-wheel drive makes everything easier. It's another tool to help you get out of the driveway in the morning. So the Juke really is kind of the perfect commuter car for him. All the car he needs for him and Bonnie, and small enough to navigate downtown Belfast, Maine without a worry, and enough power to merge on the highway without hesitation. The 2014 Nissan Juke S Midnight Edition. A car too weird for the buy-in public, and not weird enough for enthusiasts. As a result, the Juke, despite its leading the way for the wacky youth-aimed subcompact crossover market that would dominate today's sales floors, it was a sales flop in America. Its best 2 years, 2013 and 2014, would barely crack 38,000 sold. So, the Juke was discontinued in the States in 2017. It would carry on in Europe and Asia with a slightly toned down second generation, and maybe it's because its wacky styling better fit those markets. In America, it would be replaced with the Kicks, another youth-aimed subcompact crossover. However, that model, despite its own flair, had more traditional styling, and was designed specifically to fix a lot of the faults with the Juke. Unfortunately, it's a Nissan model in today's Nissan and today's market, fitting in an aging lineup that's turned off the buy-in public in a bad way. In its first year, 2018, the Kicks outsold the Juke from the previous year, a mere 23,000 to the Juke's 10,000 in 2017. Which is a shame. The Kicks got a lot of positive reviews when it came out, and unfortunately, doesn't look like things are going too well for Nissan right now. The Nissan Juke, an ugly duckling, and sadly, that's all it'll likely be remembered for. Toyota's CHR, Honda's HR-V, Buick's Encore, Chevy's Trax, and Jeep's Renegade. All quirky crossovers in their own way, but they didn't carry a face like the 2014 Juke S Midnight Edition. Time will tell if the Juke would become hipster cool like the Pontiac Aztek is today. But only time will decide that. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for watching another episode of Wookie Drives. This Juke was supplied graciously by Aaron and Bonnie of Belfast, Maine. If you have a car you'd like to have on the show, go ahead and DM my Twitter page at WookieAutomoTV or message the official Facebook page at facebook.com/WookieDrives. And I will try to work something out. I'm specifically looking for cars in the Mooresville, North Carolina area, as that is where I am located now. Anyways, be sure to like the video, leave a comment with some feedback, as any feedback is good feedback, and hit that subscribe button for more Wookie content. I'm trying to get content out at a more regular basis for 2020. Anyways, thank you for watching, and have a good night.
Kowalczyk.
Emergency, Kowalczyk.
What is your emergency?
The intern forgot the donuts for the status meeting.
Bingo.
It's okay. I'm on a mission.
Professional driver, closed course.
That's right. We put a turbo in a sport cross. The all-new Nissan Juke. Innovation for success, innovation for all.